What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today we're going to begin the conversation surrounding the school board. Right? I showed you guys this the other day. I said you have the school board. Now I had a picture above this. We'll talk about all this above this, where you have state and federal entities and how they influence and affect this. Right? We're going to have videos on that in the future because that's very important. How these people are influenced by state and federal funding and enticing them and keeping them on the hook and trying to persuade them to stick with this liberal agenda, right? And how local communities don't really have a say, or they do, but they're allured away from standing on their own morals and values that the local community says that they have, right? They're allured away from that by the almighty dollar. And so this is the picture, the diagram: school board, central office, high school, middle school, elementary school, home, right? It feeds through these, and then we produce the most precious product in the world, a student, and that we put them out into the world. And the question that we ask is, do our students know why they are in the world by the time that they leave? We have them for 18 years, right? We have them for 18 precious years. And are we as a community instilling in them what it means to be successful? And then that word or that term or that phrase, what is success, right? What does it mean to be successful? Make $1 billion and you're successful? No, I don't think so. There's a lot of people out there that are ultra million billionaires. I mean, take Ted Turner, and they asked him, if you go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? And he said, when you get to the top, there's nothing there. There's a man that's dedicated his life to money, power, right? And he said, there's nothing there. There's nothing at the top. Listen to him, right? There's tons of stories that way. So it doesn't seem that success is that, but there is a part of success that is you have financial stability and security to be able to provide for yourself and your family. And then that brings up, is success a family anymore? Right? Do we believe that a nuclear family and children, is that part of success? Well, I would argue that if you don't do that, and another demographic of people or religious system or whatever, if they do believe in that, that group that doesn't believe in that will no longer exist within 80 years. You'll be bred out, right? So it seems as if that needs to be a part of the success story, right? That family and children, and when we talk about family, is it a man and a woman, or is it a man and a man, or a woman and a woman? And is there any distinction in the children that are raised by two males or two females versus a male and a female? Is there distinctions in the quality of their raising? But to make that claim, we would have to say that there's a type of morality that is objectively better, right? And if we don't go there, then we can't even start to distinguish between better or worse inside of these things, right? And this is where I went back to in the video the other day, that morality matters and that every system is built upon a morality. And when we continue to take part in a lie, in the lie that is floating through our society today, that in some way morality is neutral and you can continue to move forward in a society on neutral morality, it's an impossibility. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing. And they've lied to you and deceived you into thinking that morality is neutral, while a secular system, a postmodern system, has been producing the new age morality. And it's failing our children, it's failing our society, it's failing our nation, right, across the board. And so we talked about all those things yesterday, and we're going to continue to talk about those things moving forward. And how do we, once again, take a Christian morality and make it the basis and the foundation of our local community? Because if we do, we will outshine every other community around us. We will outshine every other community in the state of Georgia and every other community in the nation. You know why I know that? Because it's true, because it's real. And I'm not arguing for theocracy, right? The founding fathers said separation of church and state, and I am for that. I believe that matters. But what they meant was a separation of state and worship, right? That's what they were talking about. They weren't foolish enough to believe the way that we have started to believe, that you can separate morality, Christian morality, from the state. Because if you remove Christian morality, you have to put something else there. You can't just have that as an empty space. So if I remove Christian morality, I have to put Islamic morality, or I have to put Hindu morality, or I have to put secular morality, right? I have to put some other morality there. And our founding fathers knew the greatest morality to put underneath the foundation of any system was a Christian morality, because it led to the freedom and liberties of all people and is the only system ever to do that in the history of humanity. Okay? I dare you to prove me wrong. Or I dare you to prove me wrong. In terms of a long data point, right? I dare you to prove me wrong. All right, so we're going to talk about the school board today, okay? The school board. I'm going to give you some information about the school board. We're going to talk about a variety of different things that I think you ought to be informed on. And I'm not necessarily going to get too deep into maybe criticisms of them yet, but I think you have to understand this before we move on to the central office and the high school and the middle school and the elementary schools and all that, and how successful they've been from an education standard nationwide to a sports nationwide, all forms of education that matter inside of schools, okay? So, number one, the school board is an elected position. It's elected by our community, okay? By our community. These elected officials, as I've said always, and I will continue to say always till it beats it in your brain, these elected officials have a morality. Therefore, the 5 officials that are on the board have a subset of morality that they operate out of. My question is, what is your morality? Right? Is it a Christian morality? Is it a secular morality? Is it an Islamic morality? Now, we know it's probably not Islamic, but I want to know, is it Christian or is it secular? Because, again, it's one or the other. It's not neither, okay? And by the way, I would love to talk to a school board member. I'd love to talk to all of you guys. I'd love to have a meeting, a Q&A with you, to be able to talk, to be able to tell the community what your answers are to these questions. It would be great. Right? It would be great. I'm not trying to divide. I'm trying to bring us together, but I'm trying to also get the type of information to we're no longer in the shadows and everybody is informed of who you are and what you believe in the direction that you're taking our community, because you're using public dollars and you're using public children, right, to do it. So I think being incredibly open is incredibly important, right? Incredibly important. And so these people, all 5 of them have a reason for running, right? They have a stated reason, and then they have an actual reason, right? And all I mean by that is 99% of the time someone's stated reason is not their actual reason, at least not in full context, okay? At least not in full context. There's hidden parts underneath it that they feel like they couldn't say. For instance, if I ran, my reasoning would be one thing, but then I would tell you my hidden reason too. You might not vote me in, and that's okay, but I would have a hidden reason of a Christian morality governing our children and our schools and our county, right? I'd just be open about it. A lot of people aren't. I would be. I don't mind to tell you that, because I think I can back it through actual evidence that will show you that it is best for all people groups, okay? What do? Well, they set policy. The policies surrounding student discipline, rules, curriculum format, staff procedures, right? They set the policies around that. So this would be an interesting place I would pause. I'd like to ask them some questions. So what are the student discipline rules? Why did you set them the way that you've set them? And have we seen that the student body has become more ruly and respectful than it was 30, 40 years ago when they were different, right? I'd like to hold accountability to it, right? Did we see a more respectful human being coming out of this system 40, 50 years ago? And I'm not saying there's not other variables involved in it, but this discipline is part of it. Did we see a more disciplined high school, middle school, elementary school when we had different procedures? Or do we, versus today, or do we see a more disrespectful, more unruly group than we did back then? I think we all know the answer to that. And so my question would be, why do we continue to take what the state tells us, I'm about to talk about this, what the state in Atlanta tells us to do, and apply this liberal model that they're putting on top of us and use what they use. And why I say that is because what you don't understand about state community school boards, they all go down to Atlanta, all of them from across the state. They'll go to Atlanta, and then Atlanta tells them how to act. And I think there's a lot of people that get on the school board in the same way a lot of people get into politics, and then they go to D.C., right? And they're wined and dined, and they're told how important they are, and they do all this stuff to them so that they'll listen to them. And then they come back, and the reason that they ran to begin with has changed or shifted, and they become compromised, right? In some ways, maybe even ways they don't even realize, right? Maybe even ways they don't even realize. They come back and they don't govern the same. And it's like when God says in Revelations, you've left your first love, right? So we've been wine and dined, we've been promised money or other things if we'll just listen and do what they tell us, or they convince us that they're higher minded than us and they know how to do it and we just need to listen to them because they've been doing it for a long time. And so they come back on the school board, and all of a sudden they start listening to these people. And I think on the school board, we need a bunch of good old boys that go down there and sleep during the meetings, right? They just sleep, and they take none of it in. Right? I really do. Like, this is where I'm at. Like, because you need to come back and you need to go, hey guys, we're Whitfield County. We don't care what you do in Atlanta because we don't want to be you in Atlanta. You're liberal as all sin, and we want no part of it. And your policies and procedures suck, and they don't work. And so you can dangle your money over us, but we're going to be Whitfield County, right? So thank you, but no thank you. We'll govern ourselves the way that we want to locally. That's what we need on the school board. It's time for good old boy season to come back. Okay, and even if it relies upon a shadow government beneath the good old boys to help them govern, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, all right. So they set policies. They hire and evaluate superintendents. Right. I think we should have every year an entire video over what the superintendent's done. Right. Let's talk about what has he done. Accountability. The more accountability, the more open book we are, the better. Public dollars, public children. You need maximum accountability, right? Budget and financial oversight. They approve budgets, set school mileage rates, fund usage. A lot of people will tell me too, hey, Caleb, you can go look and read the minutes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, 20 years ago, that's great, right? We're advancing though. Let's get past read the minutes, right? If we want full transparency and full accountability and full open book, we'll go live. We'll go live with this stuff, right? Absolutely. If I was on the school board, I'd go live. Because it's not just about the decision you made. I like to see people process the decisions. Like, how were they processing it? Right? I made this decision, but what was my process to get there, and how was he thinking about it? That matters. Right? That's why you have a difference in people texting stuff and people talking, right? It's more important to talk to somebody because you might get bad context, or you might be reading it from a bad place in a text, and that can cause confusion and fighting and those kind of things. Approving contracts and major purchases, constructural contracts, curriculum materials, educational goals and strategic planning, long-term goals, academic priorities, improvement plans. I'd like to know some of the decisions that we made in that area and look at over the last 10 years. We're going to talk about some of those in the next video because we're going to talk about actual decisions the school board's made over the last 25 years and ask questions surrounding how effective have they been. We've spent a lot of money, but have they been effective? Right? We're going to actually look at that because I think there needs to be accountability surrounding the decisions that the school board makes, and we need to actually evaluate those decisions, right? Did they pan out? Were they good decisions, right? We never come back to that. We make decisions and then we forget about them and we're all caught up and it's like, whoa, did any of these work? Is there accountability for these? That's important. Oversight of school facilities, so building new facilities, renovating facilities, school zoning. There's some interesting questions around zoning I'd like to talk about in terms of breeding competition among schools rather than running it like a socialism. Represent the community, and this is the big one, right? They have open meetings to listen to the public. And I'm not saying that our school board has not been better than most around the country. They actually have, and I'll tell you an example of this. But there's a lot of school boards that just throw you the bird finger. And they don't care what you have to say, especially in Atlanta, right? In Atlanta, the place we go to listen to the people tell us how to do it. Those guys throw you the bird, right? Because they don't care, because they know they have the liberal backing. In Dalton, in Whitfield County, they know you don't have the liberal backing, so they listen a little bit better, right? We're more conservative. And incorporate the things that the community are saying, right? So when it comes to meeting, you need to know, and they have a meeting first week of the month, typically, right? You can get on the website, Whitfield County School Board, Whitfield County School website, and make sure. But they have that meeting. I think that meeting should be live. Let's get away from, I'd said it earlier, minutes. Who cares about minutes? No, reading minutes. We're beyond that. We're in the AI generation. We can go live with meetings so people can watch them. And maybe they are. I don't know. I don't think they are. I think they're just minutes. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The district, so here's your 5 school board members, right? District 1 is Ricky Robertson. District 2 is Jamie Johnson. District 3 is Carolyn Weaver. District 4 is Joe Barnett. And your at-large bid is Bill Worley. Now, I haven't looked specifically into these people, how long they've been there. or with the decision they made. I'm doing that next, and we talk about the decisions that have been made on the school board in the last 20 years. But here's what I'm going to say when it comes to elected officials, period. I think there ought to be a period in which we just unelect people just because they should be unelected, right? Nobody should sit on any board or be a part of anything over a set number of years, right? And this is subjective, but let's say 8 years. And the reason is because it's just too easy for corruption. Rather, they want to be corrupted or not, it's just too easy to be deceived or be enticed or be, promoted in a way that makes you feel important and all of that. It's just too much, right? It's too much. And again, I'm not saying that we're all capable of being allured into sin, myself included. I would step down after 8 years, right? Whether I was a part of it or not, because guess what? I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not naive enough, or I'm not proud enough to think that I am unapproachable. I am not unapproachable. I can be led astray too. We all can. We have sin in our heart, right? And we can all be led astray. And that's important to be humble enough to say that, right? To be humble enough to say that. So I think, after a while, if there's somebody on here, and I hadn't looked, Bill Worley, I think he's been on there I don't know how long, just vote him off. There's other qualified people in our community that could do this, right? You're going to D.C. a lot. After a while, you just need to be voted off. There's too much corruption that happens. There's too much that can get on you, right? And you as a person need to be humble enough to know that you remove it's like a man that always continues to go to the same place over and over and over, and he knows that he probably shouldn't, right? Because maybe he's going to this place, and it might be a place of business where this girl is flirting with him, and he continues to make the decision to go there without his wife, right? And he's putting himself in the way of harm, thinking, no, I'm good, man. I'd never have an affair. I'm fine. That's arrogance. That's pride, right? You just don't do that. Not if you care about your wife. Not if you care about your legacy. I'm telling you, I wouldn't do that. I would run. Joseph ran. He ran from that, right? Don't put yourself in position thinking more of yourself than you should. That is a perfect way to fail in life, okay? Just don't do it, right? That's a rule of mine, because I've failed too many times thinking I was better than I was. And I'm just simply not. Okay? So that's the school board. Tomorrow we're going to talk about decisions that they've made, and we're going to kind of ask questions about those decisions and have those decisions been effective or not. I'll see you in the next video.